Welcome back to another episode from the road. This is the Art of Selling Travel podcast. I am your host, Glenda, and I can't wait to get started. So, I have just wrapped up 3 full days of a conference with the Central Pennsylvania ASTA, where I got to MC and hang out and just spend time with travel advisors. Nothing else makes me more excited than to be able to hang out and just really get to hear the questions that they have. So one of the questions that came in was from the lovely Lisa, and she wanted to know what's a great way to get to know your clients better? I create relationships very easily, but how do I break the surface info? And really and truly, it's when you're working with your clients, when you're within the consultation, kind of setting a little bit of that expectation because you want to get to know them in terms, or you want to set that precedent, or not even that's not necessarily the right word, but you want to create the context for how this conversation's going to go. Because if you just immediately go into those deeper questions, or like, whoa, 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 like, I don't know you, lady. What are you doing? Instead, you want to let them know why you're going to ask those questions. See, the most powerful thing in sales, the most powerful tool you have is curiosity. And when they understand why you need to know these things, they're going to be a lot more open to sharing them. Because it's that idea that if you go to the used car sales lot and they're like, okay, what's your budget? And it's like, wait, I didn't even tell you I wanted to buy a car yet. What are you doing? Versus, as we go into into this conversation, consultation, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. And the reason why I like to do that is because when I plan my vacations for my clients, or when I design these vacations for my clients, it's specifically tailored to each individual client. So, how you like something might not be how I do or how another client does. So, when I ask you these questions, it's so that we can really and truly get specific into finding you the perfect vacation. Is that all right with you if I ask you questions? See, you need to make sure that you ask permission to be able to ask them questions. When I go into coaching, sometimes I can be blunt. Shocking, I know. But the thing is, though, is that in order for me to be able to come straight at it, I already have to have that understanding from the client that they know that we're going to come at it from that angle. Sometimes that means that they come to that understanding just simply through having paid attention to how I respond on socials, how I have conversations within the podcast and other such. I recently did a sales call. Actually, I did back to back sales calls for my private one-to-one coaching. And both of them, when I started the process of explaining how it is to work with me and the fact that, I'm going to ask you some questions that might make you uncomfortable. And both of them, and it just makes me chuckle because they both were like, girl, trust me, I listened to your or to your podcast. I know what's coming for me. So your clients need to have that understanding. Have you built up that level of trust? How well do they know you before you go into the conversation about asking them a bunch of questions? We want to make sure that when we're doing consultations, they're not interrogations, that we're actually diving deep and we're having a real connecting conversation. Your client needs to be able to understand why you're asking the questions. But most important, if you want to get past the surface, you have to listen. Because if you cut off your client at every turn, if you, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Oh, yeah," and you're cutting them off, or you're dismissing what it is that they say, or if they start to get a little bit hesitant and you don't pick up on those types of cues, then they're not going to be able to go any deeper with you, and they're not going to move past the surface. Because the surface is where you're at when we don't trust the situation. The surface is safe. What you need your clients to do is to trust you so that they can go deeper, so that they feel comfortable. We have to remember that a lot of times our clients have heard about us from their friends, which is great. It usually increases the speed at which they trust. But also, too, there can also be times where they found you on social. Maybe it was an ad, maybe it was a post, maybe they've been following you for a while, so they kind of feel like they know you, but at the same time, maybe you haven't been consistent. Maybe your message has been all over the place, so they're just not quite sure who you are, what you are, or how it is that you help. When you have consistent messaging across the board, it allows them to be able to trust a little bit more in what you're doing. Now, here's the other thing, and we're going to chase a squirrel for a second. When you are marketing, make certain that everything in your marketing is you 100%. To me, one of the best compliments I've gotten this year was when I was in Toronto. I was sitting with somebody from the community and we were sitting with her friends. And her friend said, you know, when you listen on Spotify and you listen to like a music artist and then you and you like them, but then you go to their concert and they're exactly the same, you just love them. She goes, that's how I feel about you with your podcast because I've been listening to your podcast. But like you at lunch here, that's who you are. And I just kind of laughed because it never occurred to me to be anything but myself. Hence the fact that we're doing this podcast raw because I didn't get around to getting it done before, but I'm committed to putting it out. But the thing is, though, is that when she met me in person, I was exactly who she thought I would be based on what she had seen and or heard. And her comment was, you go from liking to loving. When you're somebody else on socials because you think you have to create this persona so that you can be this image of perfection that quite frankly doesn't exist, it makes it harder for your clients to trust you, to be able to answer your questions, to be able to go deeper if you're not the same person. They've probably already done a little bit of checking you out. They've probably already done a little bit of, are you like, what are you? Who are you? What do you do? Can we jive? Because we're working in this world where it's no longer the fear of missing out, but rather messing up. People are scared of messing up. If you want to be able to go deeper, you need to make sure that it's safe to go deeper with you. You have to earn that right to go deeper. And then you have to treasure that responsibility full out. It is so absolutely critical that your clients feel that safety and comfort of working with you. Because unless and until they do, they're not going to share with you what that next level is. When you're talking with your clients, whether it's on Zoom or on a phone call or ideally in person, and this is why being able to hear their voice is so important. You can hear where they take their gaps. You can hear where they go, never mind. There is so much power in what they're saying in those moments. And if you're not listening for them, if you're not listening for those little cues, those become the missed opportunities. So if you want to go deeper with your clients, listen, build the trust, be consistent with who you are online and off, and create the safe space by asking permission to ask them questions. If your clients don't want to answer questions, that's okay. They probably aren't looking to work with you. Until next time, happy selling. And I'm sending this to you from the high seas. We'll be back here next week. Until then, take care.